Welcome to the Wisconsin Wellness Podcast. I'm Lori Groh, your host, mental health therapist, and practice owner. Each month, we'll showcase a central theme and provide weekly practical hacks, inspiring interviews, and valuable advice from wellness professionals. Our aim is to help you streamline your wellness and mental health journey. So let's start the show. Hi, welcome to the Wisconsin Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lori Groh. Today we have a guest that I'm very excited about talking with. Very, very excited. And welcome, Amy. Amy is the creator of Eat Something Sexy. And Amy is considered a leading authority on aphrodisiac foods. She's an award-winning author of 5 aphrodisiac cookbooks. And Amy has her MA in gastronomy. I'm going to say that wrong.
I make it really hard. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, all these hard words, as well as a certification as a nutrition coach. She speaks and consults worldwide on topics of aphrodisiac foods and romance and using food to boost your sex life. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for the lovely introduction with all my big words.
Yes, yes. Hopefully the editing, I can make myself sound extremely intelligent and smart. I'm very excited to talk with you to my favorite things in the world are food and sex.
I mean, we got to do them, right?
Yeah. Part of life. We need them, right?
Yes.
If you also had a book on sleep, you would be my number one champion. We'd have all of the things. But if you could share a bit on how you got involved and interested in cookbooks for sex and really going into the aphrodisiac space, if you could share that, that would be great.
Sure. So when I started out in the food business, I was actually in wine. I worked at a winery and then I started writing on wine for some publications. I was working for the New York Times wine website, which no longer exists, sadly, because it was really cool. And doing a lot of wine. I was really into wine. It's still my first love. But I got really sick. And I'm almost 5'9" and I went down to like under 90 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And it took a long time for the doctor to figure out what was going on. Finally, I was diagnosed with, is like the least sexy thing ever, a systemic yeast infection in combination with a severe mold allergy.
Wow.
And the treatment for each is a very similar, extremely restrictive diet. So I was on like 2 restrictive diets at once. And luckily it was a long overlap. But yeah, so I went on this crazy restricted diet. The amazing thing that happened was that within, I kind of want to say days, certainly within a couple of weeks, I felt like a different person.
Wow.
Because my body wasn't processing any food. So you can imagine I had no energy. My sleep was terrible. I was depressed. It hurt to get out of bed. And suddenly I could do all of those things again. And within a couple of months, I was kind of back to being normal. It took a while to gain the weight back, of course.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I felt normal again and I felt like a well person again. And it was profound.
Yeah.
If the food that you put in your body can make this much of a difference, I want other people to know about that. And I want to help them discover how much better you can feel when you're eating well. And I kind of made the connection with sex because I thought, you need a way to entice them.
Mm-hmm.
So I started studying aphrodisiac foods because I thought these are all natural foods, right? Historically, what I knew at the time was about foods that were historically aphrodisiac. And I knew that they were all these healthy natural foods. So I started studying that. And I happen to I like history. I like researching history.
Yeah.
I like folklore. And so it was fun to combine all of these things with this newfound interest in nutrition. And that's how I wound up here.
It's quite the journey. And even just going from, right, how tired you must have felt. And I know there's a lot of people out there in general just feeling tired, right? And thinking about how food and changing your habits with food can not only make you feel better, but usually you need to feel pretty good to be in the mood.
Well, exactly. You need protein and you need the right balance of nutrients and you need to have that energy. You need to be living. Honestly, once you get past your 20s, if you want to have, be ready to go when the mood strikes or even get in the mood, you kind of need to be a pretty healthy person.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And so I want to ask you a bit about some of those food myths as far as what are aphrodisiacs, because I really just think of chocolate and oysters are kind of it. Those are
great. I mean, and what's funny is, you think they're a cliche because you hear it so much. It's like, it must be. That doesn't mean it must be in your mind.
Yeah.
And honestly, it probably is. It's probably part of it is in the presentation and the suggestion of here's your plate of oysters, dear.
Yeah.
But that's fine because those oysters are also, guess what? A good source of protein, easily digestible as compared to some other protein sources, right? So you're getting that, you're helping get your energy. They're also a great source of zinc. And, when you think about an aphrodisiac, you think about it being a sexy food. You don't think about the fact that a lot of these foods actually contain nutrients that are vital to sexual performance. And zinc is one of those because zinc promotes blood flow.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was aware of zinc helping in general with if you're to prevent from sickness, but this additional benefit. What are those other things that somebody could look for as far as some of the foods that would help for, are there more with blood flow in particular?
So basically I just advise people, if that's your interest, look at the foods that are spoken of as heart healthy.
Okay.
So anything that's good for your heart is also going to be good for both libido and in particular for sexual performance because it's helping to support, not necessarily improve, but support circulation, good blood flow. So all the heart healthy foods, oats, all these things that you hear, eat this for your heart, drink a little red wine.
Yes. And so going into that a little bit more, blood flow is a big predictor of, right, libido and how you're feeling and performance. But when you think about somebody either getting in the mood or performance, are there other factors that we would need to consider that we might not just be aware of?
Well, obviously there's hormonal balance, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And for women, we also need to think about at different times of the month, things are a little different for us. This is not my area of expertise. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I know there are experts who will tell you that at different times of the month, you may need slightly different nutrition to kind of help keep your sexual health in that right balance. So, if you wanted to focus on, I want to eat for a great libido. Honestly, I think part of that is really like the mindset of it.
Yeah.
Because you need to feel it, right? You need to feel good. You need to feel sexy. And so one of the first things I tell people is to get plenty of fiber, which is not going to directly impact your libido, but is going to impact how you feel.
Yeah.
A great deal because it keeps everything moving and it can help you feel your most sexy, which is going to go a long way toward a healthy libido.
That makes a lot of sense. That's something I wouldn't necessarily put together, but even energy-wise.
And it's so easy. It's just easy. If high fiber foods are inexpensive and they're readily available, and it's such an easy thing you can do to promote. I mean, it'll help with gut health. It will help with everything.
Yes.
But it's also going to help you feel sexy.
Yeah, I love that. And so one of the things too that I wanted to ask about in your book, Romancing the Stove, which great title.
Thank you.
All your books have amazing covers and great titles. But one of the things that I just put a note on, because I'm like, I'm very curious about this particular phrase you used. You had written about the fact that there's specific things when we're connecting with sex with a partner and, desire is one of them. But I believe the term was peak love experiences that people try to recreate, which is why I thought, I want to talk to you about this because I work a lot with couples. And one of the things that often comes up is, how we get that spark back or, what are some of those things that we can do as a couple so that, we're both in the mood or we both have those moments I'm imagining that food has a big impact on that. So basically those magical moments, you're like, can I press the repeat button on this experience?
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's funny. I just finished up an email series with my mailing list about just this, because normally I talk with her about eating for sexual health. And I was like, but wait,
Yeah.
in honor of Valentine's Day, and like, you started thinking about these things. Let's just go back. And so we've spent a month talking about like finding those romantic moments and maybe getting tech free and, all of these things. And I think one of the most important things is that people will try to complicate it.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about, I've got to plan out this whole romantic evening and it's going to be centered around a meal and I'm going to make this incredible meal and I'm going to, I'm really going to set the mood I'm going to do like theatrical lighting, and it is just more stress and you're exhausted by the time you get to this experience. It's not worth it, right? So, keeping it simple and finding that thing, like maybe just getting a bottle of the wine you drank at your wedding and sitting down together and enjoying it. And in fact, one of the things that I just did was I created, do you remember Mad Libs?
Yes. Love Mad Libs.
So I took that concept and I made my own set of story pages like that with the fill in the blanks for couples to do together. And they're all based around aphrodisiac food scenarios. So the idea is you have this tech-free moment together. You print out your sheets and you fill in your story and you have a laugh together. And you can use it even as a way to communicate a little bit. Like you could communicate desires through the story if you really wanted to.
I love that.
So there are fun things like that you can do that are so simple. I mean, all you want to do for that is print out a story sheet and get a pen.
Yeah. Yeah, Amy, I like the idea of keeping it simple. And I'll give everybody the link to get on your newsletter to get some of those ideas. But you're right. I was laughing because I'm thinking, if there's a big production, both people sleep within minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. Or you're left tired and feeling like the other person isn't appreciating your effort enough. So then there's that disappointment, like you're tired and angry by the end of it.
Yes.
So not worth it.
Yes. So resentment or expectations of all of that too, right? I think that's something too that is sometimes couples will talk to me about is, the scheduling. Oh, we cannot schedule it because then it's not spontaneous.
Yeah.
And really what I think, or from my experience in talking with couples, is it's not the spontaneity. What I think it has to do with the expectation of performance.
Right.
We can get stuck in that of like,
yeah,
it makes it not romantic and it takes us out of the moment because we're thinking about, okay, what's next? Right.
Right.
And one of the things that keeps us so connected with our partner is being present and not being somewhere else and thinking about something else or what's coming next.
One of the things I will suggest to couples is maybe just cook together. Maybe plan and schedule a night to cook together, because then you are, you're equals and you're forced to communicate. If you want this meal to turn out well, you're forced to start communicating and you kind of get in this rhythm together. And then hopefully that will carry through to the bedroom after dinner. But that's one thing that I'll suggest. If you if you want to schedule something, that's a great thing to schedule.
I love that too. And even reading your recipes out loud. So that's another thing I wanted to ask about. But that also, there is this fun, flirty way you're describing the food. And I could also see that being part of that process. It's not just the food, but it's also playful. Like it does have that feel of playful but it's also not so direct.
Right.
That it has that like playful, flirty feel of it. So I'd imagine that'd be kind of a fun thing too.
That's funny. It never occurred to me, but I love that. Yeah.
You know that feeling when you meet someone and within 5 minutes, you just know you could talk to them for hours? Actually, that's one of my hiring requirements at Shoreside Therapies. All of our therapists are highly educated, experienced, specialized in all sorts of different areas. But the real test is, can I imagine sitting with them for an awkwardly long road trip? As a self-proclaimed awkward introvert myself, I've realized how important this is. Finding the therapist isn't just about credentials. It's about feeling comfortable enough to show up as yourself. The good, the bad, the I just cried watching a dog commercial version of you. And that's why I'm so picky about who joins our team. The best part, our biggest referral source is our own clients. So that means people aren't just getting the support they need. They love their therapist so much, they send their friends, family, and even their dog walker to us. So if you're looking for a therapist who not only knows their stuff, but also feels like a real person, then check us out. Shoreside Therapies, where therapy is real, human, and maybe even a little fun. Yes, it can be fun sometimes. Me and my husband will do projects together, and we were laughing because that's when we felt most connected, was when we actually did a project together and did it well. And we're like, look at us. Now maybe we'll do cooking. Yeah, wait, that'll be next.
Cooking, yes, exactly. It's something simple, you know.
So, all right. So I want to talk, I have this question because I'm thinking, as a therapist and working with couples, I do get a lot of questions and I get some reactions. Do you have any, I guess, tell me a little bit about when people find out that your work is related to creating Aphrodisiac cookbooks. How do people typically respond?
Well, you know, the other parents in the PTO don't know about Like, I just kind of, you know, I kind of keep it to myself until someone really probes what is it? What are your cookbooks in that way?
Yes. That's funny.
But yeah, when my books, I remember when my first book, Fork Me Spoon Me, came out and I was doing the book tour and all the signings. Oh man, people thought it was like I was giving them permission to come up to me and tell me their weirdest story.
I would think.
Heard it all.
I would think would be so fun, but also probably a little startling at first because that's not necessarily what a book signing is usually.
Right. I mean, I learned to roll with it at some point. I learned a lot.
Yes.
But at first it was a shock.
Yeah, I bet we could have a whole probably episode just on some of those stories for sure. So getting back to a couple of the recipes, the drinks are what I'm drawn to.
Okay.
Because I will say that is somewhat of a signal of, hey, we're relaxing tonight. Little easier sometimes than cooking.
Right.
But I guess I want to ask a bit about, where you find those. How do you develop them? I mean, I'm guessing you got to try some of them too, but tell me how you come up with some of the recipes.
I mean, inspiration comes from many different places. Sometimes, you'll be in a bar with an amazing mixologist and try a drink and start asking questions and go home and play with kind of the same flavor profiles, that kind of thing. I have one drink that my inspiration was a creamsicle, the popsicles. And I was like, well, how? Like, I want to have that flavor again, but I really don't want to have a popsicle.
Yeah.
So I created is a tangerine and vodka cocktail with vanilla. So with fresh, real vanilla. So it's kind of like creamsicle 2.0. But yeah, so the inspiration comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
Some of my cocktail recipes you may have noticed in my cookbooks, I invited chefs and mixologists whose work lends itself to an Aphrodisiac cookbook. I invited some to contribute recipes to kind of give different levels and colors and approaches to these kind of things. So some of my recipes are others, not mine. But yeah, the inspiration comes from anywhere, everywhere.
I do love that. And I like the playfulness of it too, of like the creamsicle drink. One of yours has coconut, right? Coconut water. Is that something that, I mean, I know some of those benefits, but again, not necessarily in relation to sexual health or women's health. Tell me about that a bit, because I was curious.
Well, coconut water does actually have benefits to sexual health. And coconut, the fruit or the nut, I guess it's actually a fruit. Well, anyway, it has. Sometimes I get tied up in those, like, is it a fruit? What is it? But it makes my list of the 10 best foods for men and sexual health, actually. Coconut does. The reason that I made that drink, though, was completely personal. It was all for me. I have problems. I get dehydrated a lot.
Yeah.
And of course, alcohol will, make that happen a lot faster. And sometimes when I get dehydrated, I'll get a migraine.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this drink for myself thinking, well, if I make a cocktail with coconut water, maybe I can cancel out
I love it.
the dehydration effects.
I do love that because, that can be a big thing. And this might be an age thing for me, but even having one cocktail at dinner, I can kind of feel a little groggy. That balance, I love that because that's going to be really important, especially with sexual health too, you don't want to be dehydrated and you also don't want to be, you don't want to be so tired.
Yeah. One of the best things you can do for your sex life is drink enough water.
Yeah. Yes. So I know that there's a lot of women listening, but you brought up your list of top 10 of foods for men's sexual health. Could you share a little bit about that? Because that sounds like is there some new information, new books coming out, or are they already out for men's sexual health?
So I do have a book for men's sexual health called The Better Sex Bundle for Men.
Yeah.
And it's actually a book with a set of worksheets that helps you keep up with the ideas in the book and hold yourself accountable. So it's a fun product. And you can find out all about that and all the other things that I mentioned on eatsomethingsexy.com.
Perfect.
You can also go to eatsomethingsexy.com and find that list of the 10 best foods for men, which is sort of the starting point for everything that I talk about with men's health. And that list I created in collaboration with a nutritionist named Delana Flagg, she has her PhD in holistic medicine. So,
wonderful.
We've collaborated a lot over the years, and we did also create a list of the 10 best foods for women. I'm working on a better sex bundle for women, of course, but I realized halfway through that it's just so complicated.
Yeah.
Something we don't think about so much is that women's sexual health, and not only are what you do for women's sexual health and men's sexual health are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, women's sexual health is a much more complicated topic than men's because it's different every day.
Right.
Versus a man's is fairly much the same throughout the majority of his life. And for women, not only when you have a menstrual cycle, is it different every day, but then, of course, you have menopause and then, postmenopausal. There's so many changes throughout your life that it's taking me forever to write this book.
Right.
But you can go to Eat Something Sexy and see the list of the 10 best foods for women, which is a great jumping off point.
Yes. I will put that list. Well, your website, of course, will be in the show notes and people can look for that there. But you're so right when you talk about the way you said it. I don't think I've ever really thought about it in that precise way of women's sexual health and their body is different every single day. And men do have cycles as well, but it's not to that same degree and complication with that on just how we're feeling energy wise is different. And in particular, going through the perimenopause and menopause stages, that's when a lot of women are, I guess from my experience, saying, hey, we want to be feeling better and we want sex to be a part of our life. And yet at the same time, there can be those complications with that stage of life too. Yeah.
Yes. Although I keep hearing, and I'm almost excited for it. Like, could I just accelerate into my golden years? Because I have heard that once you get completely through menopause, life is amazing.
Yeah.
That you can potentially have, that sex drive back. You have so much more energy because your body has to do less, right? You're not having, it's having less things to do and you have energy and time for the things that excite you. So I'm like, get me there now.
Yeah, that is what I hear as well, is that there's a clear-headedness. There's a lot of things that do change during that time. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye. Quick favor, subscribe and rate the podcast to help us bring you more expert guests, transformative conversations, and valuable resources. Your support makes all the difference. And don't miss out. Big things are happening. Join the Mindful Advocacy Book Club, kicking off April 17th at 12 p.m. CST. Our first book, Hope in Darkness, is free on Amazon right now. Go ahead and click that link in the show notes. Plus, you get access to exclusive live wellness webinars to grow, learn, and connect. Sign up for our newsletter or visit Wisconsin Wellness Podcast to register. Until next time, stay well, Wisconsin.